What's up guys, I'm here to talk to you about what I've been listening to for the past month. I got through a fair bit of stuff in the past month, way better than I did in March. So I'm excited to talk to you about all these different things I've been listening to. I've gone semi-scripted for this episode in an effort to get through things faster, be more precise, more articulate, and kind of just more accurate about what I have to say. I do want to point out though that the stuff that I listened to at the start of the month, I didn't take too many notes on at the time, so I am a little bit rusty with that stuff, but let's just dive in and see how we go. Let's get started by talking about My Dear Melancholy by The Weeknd. Now I have a weird relationship with The Weeknd because I kind of love all of his singles and his features. Like anytime he rocks up in a small dose like that, I really dig. But listening to his entire albums kind of becomes a very, it's a slog, which is a shame because the guy has a fantastic voice, but all of his stuff is just so similar. I feel as if the guy only has like 2, 3, maybe 4 types of vocal delivery. Yes, he can sing, he can rap, he's definitely got this fantastic kind of hip-hop style on the singles, but if you've heard Can't Feel My Face, if you've heard his song for the 50 Shades of Grey soundtrack, his one for the Black Panther soundtrack, Pray For Me, and I guess maybe throw in Starboy, between those 4 tracks, that's kind of everything that I've heard this guy offer, even on the full albums that I've listened to. So going into this one, I kind of knew relatively what to expect. I got exactly what I expected. 6 or 7 tracks, I don't quite remember because the whole thing blended into one. I will give it props for being forgivably short, but this is definitely on that 50 Shades spectrum where it's just that kind of like pop ballady type thing that really isn't too inventive. It's not as good as he can be when he's really working hard. This kind of feels like just a quick, like, you know, get something out to the fans that they already recognize. It's okay. I didn't mind it. The track Wasted Times is probably the highlight. Ironically titled Wasted Times, because that's kind of how I felt. It was only like 25 minutes or something, but it just really... I think The Weeknd has more to offer and he is not offering it here. Next up, I want to talk about the Neighbourhood self-titled album, which I was recommended, and it was decent. This is an electro-pop record from a band that kind of sounds like what I imagine the Horrors would sound like if they sold out to like a Maroon 5 degree. It's neither good nor bad, it kind of just sways between a 4 out of 10 and a 6 out of 10 range on a song-to-song basis, and because of that it kind of just comes through the middle as being pretty unremarkable. It's got a lot of synths, a lot of auto-tune, and a lot of echoing about love, losing love, finding love again, the loneliness after losing love, and it kind of just is pretty uninteresting and unoriginal. It's totally listenable, but the album doesn't really have enough of an identity to really hold my attention. So this is the first time I've listened to The Neighbourhood. I may go back and check out their older stuff. Even though it is worse reviewed, it may have a bit more kind of identity to it. I don't know yet. We will see. Oh boy, here we go. The new 30 Seconds to Mars album is bad, like really bad. I don't think it's dreadful to listen to, but everything it represents just sucks. I find this group weird because I've always felt like they've never really fit in anywhere. And I can tell you what, they definitely do not fit into club, pop, electronic trash. At the point that I saw that this album had a feature from A$AP Rocky, I kind of knew it was going to be in trouble, but like, dude, what the fuck were they thinking? This is, as far as I'm concerned, what completely selling out looks like, and the album became kind of an endurance test after like the first 2 songs. It was really just a struggle to get through. And there are like semi-highlights that come from Monolith, which is almost like a movie trailer soundtrack instrumental, which really isn't that inspired on its own, but like I guess in the context of the album it was a nice break. And I do really enjoy Jared Leto when he's belting stuff out. I like the guy's voice. I like the guy. I mean, I've always had this kind of weird, like, Jared Leto's like my man crush obsession, I'll just put it that way. So I like the guy, I just don't like his music. I do think that there could have been a good album in here. There's such a wide scope of ideas. Had they been given some depth, there may have been something to get out of it, but at the same time, it's all buried under so much electronic drum beat trash and an obsession with kind of pop radio hooks that I can barely even see whatever could have been there. So just avoid this one. Now onto something I'm surprised that I loved. even though I don't think it's that great. Cardi B's Invasion of Privacy, I think kind of just works for me because of how aggressively it comes at you. It's not angry or violent or anything, but it's just kind of explosive, and I think that the production on each track is good enough to incite a little bit of a boogie. That's the whitest thing I've ever done, but it definitely kind of, I can vibe with what is going on in this album. There's just enough variation in the stuff Cardi covers, from her personal life to expectations and success, that the album feels unique without ever feeling original. But you're not here for originality, you're here for personality, and I think that Cardi really delivers on that front. Between a killer feature by Chance the Rapper on the track Best Life and another electric performance by SZA on the closing track I Do think that this album is pretty damn good for a super mainstream pop rap release, and I think the fact that it values who the artist is over how they sound is definitely something that is noteworthy. So I respect it for that, and I kind of am enjoying listening to it. I've gone back to it multiple times, so it's obviously done something right. Now, as always, every month I try to go through the entire discography of at least one artist. This month I chose Bring Me The Horizon after they were recommended to me. Bring Me The Horizon is a 5-piece kind of metalcore screamo band out of the UK that has released 4 albums between 2008 and 2015. They started out with very much a deathcore, very, very intense vibe, and they've definitely mellowed out since then into more of kind of an alt metal, pop, electronic vibe, and it's kind of worked out for them. Now, straight up, I'll admit that I don't have much to say about the band's first 2 albums, Suicide Season and There Is a Hell, Believe Me, I've Seen It, There Is a Heaven, Let's Keep It a Secret, that is such a mouthful. But I don't have a big opinion on those because I don't really understand the deathcore, hyper-aggressive screamo genre as well as I'd like to. So I think while I got through them, while I definitely found them interesting, the second album more so because it's smoothed out a little bit. They are a little bit too kind of assaultive. Is that a word? They're very, very angry and very, very wild. So I think at this early stage of me kind of getting into this genre, I don't really understand it enough yet to have an opinion on those. But I do really want to talk about the band's third album, Sempiternal, which was outright fucking phenomenal. From the knockout first track, Can You Feel My Heart, the band's more controlled, electronic delivery really made a statement to me, and I got right into it from the get-go. The vocal work across the album by Oliver Sykes is absolutely fantastic. I think that the highlight section for me is in that first track, Can You Feel My Heart, with I can't drown my demons, they know how to swim. Honestly, he taps into almost like a Chester Bennington of Linkin Park fame vibe when he's really screaming stuff out, and I got so into it. Like, I really, really love his delivery. Every track here is just explosive, with the band like attacking this anti-religious perspective with an insane level of ferocity. Tracks like House of Wolves and Shadow Moses almost require wearing a seatbelt while you listen to them because they hit so hard. Sleepwalking is probably the highlight of the album because it really shows off everything the band is going for inside one track. The sheer level of passion and emotion behind this whole thing is just stunning, and I would honestly recommend this album to absolutely anyone. I know most people aren't into this type of genre of music, but like, I really, really got into this. I really think it's fantastic. Straight off Sempiternal, I dove into That's the Spirit, which is the band's latest album, which definitely goes further into that pop electronic vibe. I have only listened to the album once, and while I didn't dig it quite as much as Sempiternal, I do think that there was definitely standouts in tracks such as Throne and Blasphemy. The problem is the album in just 3 years does already feel somewhat dated because I feel like the electronic influences were taken from outside of the band as opposed from generated internally. There's almost an element of it feeling like it followed electronic trends at the time, and so stuff has dated somewhat. That being said, I do really enjoy the album, and I will be going back to listen to it some more. Now on to J. Cole's KOD. Look, I do like the guy. I do think he produces some good music despite some of it being really campy. When he does drop a banger, it really does bang. I am a pretty big fan of Born Sinner, and I liked For Your Eyes Only, but because of that being his previous release, I don't think I was really expecting for him to go where he did with KOD. He finds his way around some pretty strong but relatively samey beats that kind of feel like what you expect from J. Cole, but pushed through kind of a post-Kendrick Lamar's Damn filter. The album definitely has moments that it shines, such as the Taxes verse on Brackets and pretty much the whole of the closing track 1985, but I do feel like J. Cole is at odds between the concept and the execution. Cole is doing a lot of talking down and he's getting mad, but he's not really offering any better alternatives or avenues. I guess, you know, he wants the kids to get off the drugs and he wants to put an end to kind of trap, mumble rap, that whole genre, but he's not really offering any ideas on like how. Cole is very much discussing his issues with certain topics, but he's not really advancing the conversation on any of them in a positive way. Maybe that's asking too much, but it could have made this whole project so much better. Now, speaking of that trap trend, fuck Beerbongs and Bentleys. Genuinely fuck this album. I could probably listen to some of it in a background context or if it was playing at a nightclub or something, but listening to this whole thing, I made it 7 tracks in and I quit because it was making me so miserable with how terrible it was that I could not make it any further. It is literally the exact same thing for 18 tracks that goes for over an hour. Why? This guy, I like him. I do like him. I understand why people enjoy the music. I enjoy some of the singles. But listening to it in a context, an hour-long context, the guy doesn't have enough to say or enough ways to say it to even get past about 4 or 5 songs at this stage. I'm sure he has the skill and the talent in there somewhere, but right now he is not showing it. He is just putting stuff out that just seems to fit the trend. People that are into that lap it up, but he's not doing anything interesting, and I think whatever I listen to of this album subsequently sucks. You can hate me for not listening to the whole thing, but I was listening to it while driving and I would have literally, if a bridge had turned up, I would have been like, alright, this is the end, just veered off it because it was just, it's not good. To round out April though, we finally got my most anticipated release of the year, Janelle Monae's Dirty Computer. I haven't spent that much time with this album yet, I am definitely going to, but it only takes one listen to know that this thing is pretty much perfect. I don't know whether it's going to hit the extraordinary heights of The Arch Android, her first album, which is my favorite album by a female artist ever, but I'm pretty sure it's going to get damn close. It's Monae's poppiest record yet, very much existing in the same vein, I feel, as St. Vincent's Mass Seduction from last year. Each track is infused with a staggering level of artistry, playing with a vast array of digital sound effects, vocal sounds, acoustics, and orchestrations. The scope of this record is far more narrow than previous releases as Monae focuses on her identity, sexuality, femininity, and self-expression, and she also kind of tackles interpersonal connectivity between people around the world. And I guess when you're talking about humanity as a whole, that doesn't sound too narrow in scope, but she approaches from a very personal place that feels like she's really liberated by what she's exploring on this album. It's brash, direct, and wildly entertaining, and it shows that this woman has kind of like an absolutely unlimited skill set. Look, I'm gonna be spending a long time with this one, and I think that you should too. Alright guys, that brings us to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I want to continue to try to improve these videos in any way I can, so let me know any of your suggestions down in the comment section below, as well as what you thought about any of these albums I've discussed, or if you want to give me any form of recommendations. If you haven't subscribed to this channel already, you can find the subscribe button down there somewhere too, and you should hit it to see more stuff from us. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, not Snapchat, we got rid of that, and Twitter. And if you feel like doing so, you can support this channel on Patreon. I do this as a full-time thing, so that kind of support is just super appreciated. I will see you guys in the next video.